What if everything you thought you knew about the government's UFO investigations was only half the story? For over 2 decades, the U.S. Air Force ran a secretive program called Project Blue Book, cataloging 12,618 sightings, with 701 cases that remain unexplained to this very day. But here's what they don't tell you. These investigations weren't really about finding aliens. They were about catching spies. So what exactly did the Air Force discover in those classified files? And why did they suddenly shut the whole program down in 1969, claiming there was nothing to see? The answers are stranger than you think, and they start right now. In late 1975, the Office of Special Investigations, OSI, declassified their investigative files of reported unidentified flying object or UFO sightings and sent them to the National Archives for processing. The reports revealed that OSI agents documented and investigated UFO sightings from 1948 until the late 1960s. Although some pilots enjoy the joke that the world has a big sky and it belongs to the Air Force, in reference to air superiority, during the years of Projects Sign, Grudge, and Blue Book, the United States government charged the Air Force with the responsibility to monitor American airspace. Contemporary strategic thinkers did not necessarily consider the possibility of alien life, but rather that the craft could be of Soviet origin. During the Cold War years, Soviet aggression and espionage were definitely issues concerning the Air Force. Project Blue Book was the code name for the systematic study of unidentified flying objects by the United States Air Force, from March 1952 to its termination on December 17, 1969. The project, headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, was initially directed by Captain Edward J. Ruppelt and followed projects of a similar nature such as Project Sign, established in 1947, and Project Grudge in 1948. Project Blue Book had 2 goals, namely to determine if UFOs were a threat to national security and to scientifically analyze UFO-related data. Project Blue Book's records can now be accessed at a reading room in the National Archives, but many of the reports have also been digitized. In mid-1947, a civilian pilot reported he saw 9 flat, saucer-shaped objects approaching Mount Rainier in Washington state, and from there the name Flying Saucers was born. Later that year, the UFO crash of what was reported as a weather or nuclear test surveillance balloon near Roswell, New Mexico, ignited conspiracy theories that persist to this day. The National Archives has been unable to locate any documentation among the Blue Book records that discuss the incident in Roswell. At the inception of Project Sign, Air Force Material Command had primary responsibility for UFO reports. However, shortly after its creation in 1948, OSI took over this responsibility under the name Project Grudge. Although all detachments received and documented UFO reports, most were investigated by District 17 at Kirtland Air Force Base, New Mexico. One investigation, opened in 1948, came from reports by 2 commercial airline pilots flying over the southwestern United States, who reported seeing green fireballs. Agents consulted a scientist from the University of New Mexico whose specialty was meteorites. The investigations were inconclusive, but continued to be intensive over the next 2 years. District 17 agents presented findings to researchers at Sandia Base and Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory in early 1949. Other participants included the University of California Geophysics Institute, the Atomic Energy Commission, Armed Forces Special Weapons Project, and other federal agencies. Initially, the Air Technical Intelligence Center analyzed the evidence collected. In April 1949, a member of the Air Force Scientific Advisory Board reviewed evidence collected by District 17 over the last 5 months, which revealed a large number of reported UFO sightings. He recommended that the district establish a temporary observation post northeast of Albuquerque on the crest of the Sandia Mountains. Agents manned spectrographic photo surveillance equipment 24 hours a day, and there was even a story of uncertain credibility that the district commander pursued a UFO until losing sight of the craft or phenomenon. OSI Letter Number 85, Unconventional Aircraft, Special Inquiry, Classified Number 24185, reported the results of many of these inquiries. Agents continued to investigate UFO reports and even revised and detailed the type of information required for sufficient investigation, including a detailed description of the appearance, direction of flight, tactics. They collected this information in earnest under Project Grudge, beginning in 1949. In 1951, UFO investigations continued under the newly named Project Blue, but parameters included much more technical data and attempts to verify the veracity of the reports and the observers. In 1967, agents briefed a scientific group on neutron activity analysis and sent a piece of an alleged UFO to the FBI crime laboratory. The lab concluded that, while the item was unusual, there was no evidence that it belonged to an alien craft. Project Blue Book continued until 1969. A total of 12,618 sightings were reported to Project Blue Book, with 701 remaining unidentified. On December 17, 1969, the Secretary of the Air Force announced the termination of Project Blue Book, the Air Force program for the investigation of UFOs. From 1947 to 1969, a total of 12,618 sightings were reported to Project Blue Book. Of these, 701 remain unidentified. The project was headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, whose personnel no longer receive, document, or investigate UFO report. The decision to discontinue UFO investigations was based on evaluation of a report prepared by the University of Colorado entitled Scientific Study of Unidentified Flying Objects. As a result of these investigations, studies, and experience gained from investigating UFO reports since 1948, the conclusions of with the termination of Project Blue Book, the Air Force regulations establishing and controlling the program for investigating and analyzing UFOs were rescinded. Documentation regarding the former Blue Book investigation has been permanently transferred to the Military Reference Branch, National Archives and Records Administration, Washington, D.C., 20408, and is available for public review and analysis. There are a number of universities and professional scientific organizations, such as the American Association for the Advancement of Science, which have considered UFO phenomena during periodic meetings and seminars. In addition, a list of private organizations interested in aerial phenomena may be found in Gale's Encyclopedia of Associations. Such timely review of the situation by private groups ensures that sound evidence will not be overlooked by the scientific community.